Alright, question number 4 is going to continue and culminate with two types of equations that are a little different than the ones we've looked at previously. These two equations are called rational equations, partly because, well, mainly because they have a variable in the denominator, polynomial functions, one on the top, one on the bottom. But the most important thing, let's look at example here so you see what I'm talking about. When I look at problem 4, this is part F on your test review. When I look at this equation, I have two numbers that I have to watch out for. In this particular problem, we have what are called restricted values. I tell my students those are called RVs. I don't mean recreational vehicles, I mean restricted values, meaning you can't use them. Look at this denominator. In this denominator, x cannot equal -4, because if it did, it would make the denominator become 0. And this denominator adds a new restriction to my pot here. X cannot equal 8. So what you have to be careful about at the end of this problem is when you do give me the answer to this equation, if the number -4 sneaks in or if the number 8 sneaks in, you have to throw it out because those are called restricted values. When you're solving an equation that has a variable in the denominator, the first thing you should do is state your restrictions. Okay, now what we're going to do next here, this is a proportion. One fraction equal another fraction. Solving a proportion is pretty easy. Hopefully you've been taught one of two methods, but one that I like is when it's truly a proportion, meaning one fraction equals another fraction, you can solve this equation by cross multiplying. 6 times the quantity x minus 8 is equal to 5 times the quantity x plus 4. Now the only time you can ever use this cross multiplying method for solving equations is when you're dealing with a proportion, and a proportion means one fraction equals one other fraction. When I distribute here, I get 6x minus 48 is equal to, when I distribute on this side, I get 5x plus 20. And of course now what we do is we get our variables on one side and our numbers on the other. All right? I don't know where you are watching this video, but these are being filmed in Florida, and we live really close to Georgia. So what I teach my students is, this is like Florida, this is like Georgia, and this is the state line. I'm going to bring all my x's to Florida, okay? And I'm going to bring all my numbers to Georgia. So x's are coming over here, adding 48. I'm going to bring my numbers over here. So Florida has x in it. Georgia has 68 in it. In other words, all the x's go to one state, all the numbers go to the other. My answer is 68, and the reason I know that answer is okay, I don't actually have to go back in and check unless I want to. This answer is not one of the two restrictions. 68 is not a restricted value, so I'm cool with that answer, and that would be my solution set. But always remember, when you're solving an equation like this, which I mean where there are variables in the denominator, your first step should not be to worry about clearing fractions or cross multiplying. Your first step should be to state your restricted values. Okay, capiche? Now move on with me to this one. Example G. I personally think my easiest thing here, before I state restrictions, I don't like this -4 over here. I'm going to add this to both sides, and I'm going to write this problem as x over 3 minus x is equal to 5. That, of course, is by adding 4 to both sides of the equation to keep the balance. So I'm not even going to pay attention to the way the problem was written. This is the problem as far as I'm concerned. My first step here in solving this is to state restrictions, and notice my restricted value here would be x cannot equal 3. And of course, the reason x can't equal 3, if I put a 3 in for x, 3 minus 3 would become 0, and division by 0 isn't allowed. All right, now, 5 is really 5 over 1. So this is a fraction, this is a fraction. Two fractions being equal to each other are called that is called a proportion. You can solve proportions by cross multiplying. X times 1 is x equals 5 times the quantity 3 minus x. X is equal to 15 minus 5x. All right, we have to have our family reunion now, people. The x's are going to come over to Florida. The numbers are going to stay, the constants are going to stay in Georgia. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides. Sometimes it helps to show it. I know your college algebra teachers don't like that, but you can wean yourself from it, but let's just get it right. We have 6x is equal to 15. Come over here with me. 6x equals 15. Of course, we divide by 6. X is equal to 15 divided by 6. And I believe both of those are divisible by 3, so we end up with the answer 5 halves. And the reason that answer is acceptable, we don't have to throw it out, is our restricted value here is the number 3. 5 halves is acceptable because that's not our restricted value. So remember, whenever you're solving equations that have variables in the denominator, your first step is to deal with the RVs, restricted values. Thank you.